Hello again. My name is Lonnie with the Live Williston channel, and Live stands for Local Issues, Voices, and Events. And again, one of the events that we have coming up in Williston, North Dakota is the Election Day, Tuesday, June 9th. So mark your calendars, be sure to turn out to vote. And in this video, we will be focusing on Cory Swint, who is running for mayor of Williston. This whole video series just focuses on the mayoral race. So feel free to check out the other videos with videos on the other candidates. That said, as far as Cory goes, I'm going to delve into some of the positive aspects of Cory, the prospect of Cory being mayor, and some of the potential downsides as well, just like I did with the other candidates. I do want to mention Cory is the only one of the four candidates that I did not sit down with one-on-one and talk to in preparation for this video. I did reach out to him and invited him to sit down with me and tried to work with his schedule, but he opted to not do that. So that said, one of the positives, this is based more on my observations of him in the forum settings, and having talked to some people who have had a connection to him in the past as well. Also, his Facebook page has a lot of great information as far as his views on different topics. He, perhaps more than the other candidates, has utilized Facebook to communicate with the community. So I encourage you to check out his page. I will link it in the description below. Each of the candidates does have a Facebook page for their mayoral campaign, so I encourage you to check them all out. But Cory's especially, I would say, he uses that platform very well to communicate with constituents. He goes through various frequently asked questions and gives you an idea of where he stands on different topics. He also is very responsive in the comments section to people who commented or asked questions. So feel free to check that out for more information. And again, the forums if you want to hear directly from the candidates themselves. So one of the positives, and this, what I just shared segues into this positive that I see for Cory, he does seem to be a good communicator, and I believe he mentioned at one of the forums his collaboration skills, and I have no doubt with his experience on the school board, that as the school board chairman, that he has had lots of practice in honing those collaboration skills. So I commend him for that. Like I mentioned with Facebook, he utilizes that platform very well to communicate with voters. Another positive that I see, if you're not aware, Cory is a plumber. He has his own plumbing company here in town. It's called All Source Plumbing. And so again, he's a business owner and able to manage his own schedule because of that. And so I see that as a positive as well. And another positive that I see, he has been pretty forthright in his desire to try to get the city of Williston out of the development and real estate businesses. And from what I understand, his idea with Williston Square is to try to sell off the properties to other developers and let them develop it rather than continuing to put money into the infrastructure. I'm going to read to you the quote here that he said on this topic because I think it's noteworthy. He said, this was via text. I did verify some information with him via text in preparation for this video. He knew that I was planning to make a video. So this is the quote that he shared with me when I verified with him his stance on wanting to get out of the real estate and development businesses for the city. He said the city should sell the square properties off to a true developer now that anchor stores have been established. I would recommend we get out of the process of being developer, zoning, and approval. Too many conflicts and a ton of tax money spent to develop for what may not come. And that was a direct quote via text message. Okay, so I'd like to switch gears now and share with you about a couple of the potential downsides of Cory Swint in the mayoral position. So one of the potential downsides is that Cory has mentioned in some of the forums that he doesn't want to continue to make cuts to the fire department. And I know that that's easy to say that. Sometimes that sells easily in a community to continue to fund public safety at really high levels. My opinion is that we have overspent in those departments, and the city commission in the last year or two has begun to tighten up those purse strings, and I think that's a good direction for them to go. I will just mention here briefly, but I will delve into it a little more in the video where I delve into some of the issues in our community that I'm concerned about. But the city back in 2023 did have a consultant do a fire department financial benchmarking study. So I did ask Cory whether he had a chance to review this, and there was an updated version that came out just at the end of April of this year as well. And in that study, it compares some of the spending of our fire department to other fire departments across the state. And of course, each fire department is unique. Ours is a little unique because the ambulance service is part of the fire department for Williston. So there are some special considerations, but when I look at the data presented in this document, it does seem to indicate that we have way higher spending in Williston per 10,000 residents compared to some of the other municipalities across the state. And so he was not aware of that document, so there's a chance that if Cory reviews that document, maybe he will change his viewpoint on emergency services spending, and especially the fire department. However, he is campaigning for mayor alongside Matt Clark, who is campaigning for city commission. And Matt Clark was the previous fire chief. He was the previous head of the fire department for the city of Williston. I believe it was within the last year that his employment with the city of Williston ended. And from my observations with Matt having served in that position, and sitting through, I believe there was one budget hearing that I sat through in regard to the fire department. It did seem like there was a level of, how do I explain this? It seemed like Matt just had this very professional approach to the fire department, which I don't think is all bad, but I think when it's not combined with recognizing the constraints that you have to work within to serve the taxpayer and to keep within the budget, I think it can be concerning, because you can justify almost any spending, especially within emergency services. But working within the constraints that the city commission gives, I think, is an important part of being a department head. And so Cory Swint, having connected himself with Matt Clark throughout this campaign and in what Cory has said at some of the forums, I think he does demonstrate that he wouldn't be likely to tighten up the purse strings on the fire and police departments. So that's one of the potential downsides for Cory. Another potential downside, and this comes more from his role as a school board chairman, but I bring it up because he brought up at one of the forums when he was introducing himself that he was very proud that while he served on the school board, they were able to pass the school bond for the new elementary school to be built in Slowland Field. I believe it will be opening in the fall of 2026, if I'm not mistaken. And that said, I noticed, and I did try to verify some of these facts with Cory, but also some of it is just my own trying to piece things together, and he might disagree with me on making how I try to make sense of the facts. So I asked him if he advocated for the bond as a school board member, if he voted to put that to the people for a vote, and he verified that yes, he did, and that yes, he was 100% for the bond passing. And then, and I'll lay out my concern. I also verified with him whether he voted to add the preschool program that was recently added to the district. And he said yes, he did vote to add the preschool program as well. And he was 100% supportive of doing that. So my concern is that now this last school year, as I understand, there has been an operating preschool program in some, if not all, of the elementary schools. From what I understand, there's 1 to 2 classrooms in most of the elementary schools that this last year was used as a preschool space, or like special services for preschoolers with special needs. So that said, my concern was that it seemed to me that the main way that that bond was sold to the public was under the idea that the school district was short on space for elementary schools, for elementary students rather. And so they needed another school. Well, the new school, the bond did pass and the new school is being built, but it's not finished yet. We're not using it. And after the bond passed, then later, before the new school is ready, they add on this preschool program and start using some of the existing space in the existing elementary schools to service this new preschool program. And that is concerning to me because it potentially points to telling the public one thing in order to sell the bond, when I don't know, if I didn't verify those numbers and those projections that were used to sell the public on the idea of passing a bond for a new elementary school. However, if they had room to add on a preschool program in the already existing elementary schools before the new school that's now being built opens, to me that pokes holes in the idea that they were short on space for elementary students. So with that in mind, I do want to read the text interaction that I had with Cory around this topic. I did want to give him a chance to address it. So I texted him recently, and again, I did verify before this part of the text interaction. I verified that he voted to put the bond to the people for a vote and that he was for the bond passing, and yes, he verified that. And he also verified that he was for the preschool program and that he voted for that. So I texted him and said, if you care to address, it seems to me the school district pulled the wool over voters' eyes in making it seem like they were short on space prior to passing the bond. This seems obvious since as soon as the bond was passed, the preschool program was added. If the school district was truly short on space in elementary schools, surely they would not have added another program that required more space before having additional space. And his response was, he said, I would recommend you sit down with the superintendent and review RSP data. I had to look that up, but it stands for Resource Specialist Program. I would recommend you sit down with the superintendent and review RSP data, facilities use, and programs offered before making those types of accusations. Thank you. My response was, so you don't care to address it then, I take it. And he said, the superintendent is the spokesman for the district. Your question should be clarified through those channels as it relates directly to facility use. Thank you. And I said, I wanted to give you a chance to address it. And I will comment, I believe Jason Germanson is the current superintendent for School District 7 for Williston. And I don't believe that he was the superintendent when the bond went to the people for a vote. Again, I'm not as knowledgeable about things on the school district front, so I hope I have my facts straight in all of this. I would be happy to correct myself if I discover that I am missing something, but I did give Cory that opportunity to address it. And I will say I did not seek out a conversation with Jason Germanson around it because I was asking Cory because he's running for mayor. So with that, I guess those were some of the positives that I see with Cory and a couple of the potential downsides or concerns that I have with Cory. So I hope that this information helps inform you about your choice of who to vote for on election day for mayor of the city of Williston. Thank you for your time, and I encourage you to check out the other videos. I'll just comment that I did get a chance to sit down one-on-one with the other 3 mayoral candidates. So my comments on them, my observations about them were based on more data than with Cory. So thank you so much for your time, and have a good day. Take care. Hi again. One item that I do want to mention, I don't want to go into it in depth because you can look it up for yourself, but there was some recent information that was posted on Facebook by a community member with more of the specific concerns that are apparently, I didn't verify any of this, so I'm not going to go into any of this in the video here, but this community member apparently looked at the employment record for Matt Clark. And I mentioned earlier that Cory Swint and Matt Clark have been campaigning together, which is why I think it's noteworthy to bring this up. So if you're interested, this community member, the Facebook post where she has shared some of this information about the reason that Matt Clark's employment ended with the city. I believe he quit on his own accord, but perhaps it was in the midst of the process where these things were coming to light. I don't know that whole sequence of events, but there are some things that were shared publicly that are of public record in his employment history, dealing with how he managed the finances of the fire department. So if you're interested, again, I will link to that Facebook post in the description for this video if you want to check it out. Okay, thank you for your time.